Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like, trying to prevent a bankruptcy filing, I mean, generally that's a tough thing to do. I mean, there may be ways that you might be able to influence that, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a decision for the board that they make, in connection with their fiduciary duties. Keeping in mind that you're likely, well, depending on what type of filing, if it's Chapter 11, which probably doesn't seem like it would be given, what you're telling me about the company, because you're talking about, usually around $1 million or so of expenses, even to do an 11. So there's the concept of then the other one would be a 7, which is a liquidation of the assets, which for you is, if it's a kind of a virtual company to begin with, or at least a company that it's primarily they're human capital or an associated goodwill. I mean, there's probably not a lot of fixed assets that you can realize to get a return on. I don't know what other whether they have any valuable IP or contracts or anything like that. Okay. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Sorry. Go on. Yeah, yeah, it's I'm actually involved in a transaction right now that we're actually trying to get it signed up today. That's why I'm a little crazed, which is we're representing a fund that a different business sector, but they basically were they're a secured lender to a company that's distressed. There's other debt, although they kind of have first lien over most of the assets, and the company's underwater, and they're actually in default to the loan. And we basically did, we're funding essentially what amounts to an out-of-court DIP loan. So it has a lot of DIP like provisions in it. But basically, and by the way, we're inviting other equity holders of the business into the syndicate. Okay, but we've given we basically, the company's going into receivership, right, which is a state law process similar to bankruptcy, not without the same kind of protections to the board and stuff like that you might get in a bankruptcy situation. Whereas once you're in bankruptcy, there's no more liability essentially for decisions that are made during the bankruptcies, which gives management, or the new management, a lot of latitude to cut deals with creditors and so forth. But anyways, the model which we're doing is the company's going to receivership. We're giving them additional funding, amending our loan, taking additional security actually, and we're giving them 6 months to basically sell the company. And then if at the end of 6 months they can't sell the company, we just get the keys. We just take the company, and they're going to agree just to give us the keys. So, and you can do that. You can actually do that in the context in and out of bankruptcy. There's something called a prepackaged bankruptcy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Again, you're probably talking about a little bit more of a cost structure that than what this company can handle. But that's one thing that's at least worth exploring, and I'm happy to talk to. I don't know if you met my Jan Drawn, right, our bankruptcy guy. Yeah, he's worked with you before. So we can. I'm certainly happy to see whether he has a little bit of time to just talk about that as an option and whether it would make sense here as something to propose. But I think, the notion of if you can, if you're willing to put some more capital in the company to give the company some more runway, the end result of that has to be that if the company can't execute on its business plan, then you need to know that you have the right at that point to basically take the company. Even if and the way that people usually kind of get there, or a lot of times would get there, is by inviting the existing equity owners to essentially join in that transaction with fresh capital, right? But the argument is, look, yeah, sure, it's great that you've got a $65 million preference stack. Too bad for you. That's not worth anything at this point. Essentially, as a secured lender, I am the real, I'm the real equity owner of this business at this point. And I can go to, court, and to the extent that you think that there's a default, then you can threaten to foreclose and get the conversation started, and that might be the the opening move in what is a negotiated out of court consensual restructuring of the business, which would result in you together with potentially other equity holders essentially controlling the company, fresh start. So or yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I think there is. I think there is a fiduciary duty issue there if if the board essentially opts for a liquidation, which has the result of essentially destroying going concern value, and if there were higher and better offers there, then the board should not do that, right? They should be. I mean, they have a duty to all shareholders, but when as you correctly noted, when the company essentially is in the zone of insolvency or in insolvency, that duty shifts to the lenders. The other dynamic too, when you're dealing with VCs, is they may have, they're it's true that they're well, they're fiduciaries just like you are, right? They've got limited partners and they have to, do what makes sense for their funds. But there also is a certain degree of, I think kind of like a reputational issue that a lot more so with CEOs and management. I mean, we see a lot of deals where there'll be carve-outs for management, even in situations where the company is being sold for less than its aggregate preference, and essentially the preferred are taking a loss. Sometimes even in those circumstances, they'll give out sale bonuses or whatever, or management carve-outs. To basically preserve their reputation as funds are not going to screw entrepreneurs. That's not every deal, but I've seen that kind of tendency sometimes. And obviously, if there's a sale transaction, right, then you need to kind of keep management in place. So, I mean, I think they definitely, like, if you think that they're threatening to file chapter, that putting together a plan that makes sense, that at least gives the company a shot and maybe provides the existing equity holders the ability to participate in the additional financing, I think would be a really good defensive move, right? And a way for you. Yeah, absolutely. Now, can you remind me? Are you? You're not on the board of this company, right? Or are you? Or are you observer? I forget. Yeah. My recollection is we did a convertible note, and then there was also a warrant, I think, is what we did, right? Okay, term loan and warrant. Okay. So I definitely would think about putting together an offer. I wouldn't mind talking to Jan just to see whether he's got any further thoughts in terms of is there would a pre-pack here make sense? Would it be is this a likely candidate for that type of transaction? Putting the company into receivership. I mean, that implies that's sort of in a way a alternative to a 7, I guess, to a certain extent, because the receiver is really just looking to sell the assets and maximize value, and it could be selling the company as a going concern. But so there's that option. How much more runway does the company have? Like, when are they going to run out of cash? Yeah. 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 Right.
我现在没空啊。
哦，好，那你有空打给我。
OK。
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. But probably not 65 million though. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. By the way, that's a great. Don't delete that email. Yeah, you might want to share that with all the rank and file employees too. You know, just to make sure they understand the thinking. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 Well, yeah. Yeah, and you need to create some sort of probably some sort of carve out for employees too, right? I mean, to keep people on board in that process, and whether it's a whether it's a carve out from your return, or maybe increasing the option pool, or whatever, post restructuring or something like that. Give them fresh options or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but it sounds to me like you're in a relatively good position in the sense that if the other side, if the existing investors want to re-up and put more money, that's great. I'm that you're fine with that. And if they are threatening a 7, then I mean, I think based on what you're telling me, you potentially have some claims. I think we'd probably need to drill down a little bit more on that, and again, talk to a litigator, or Jan, about how you tee that up, if you want to play offense, or maybe you do both at the same time or whatever. But yeah, so I think you're on the right track in terms of the way you're thinking about it, the way you're analyzing it. And yeah, I mean, to the extent the other thing is just in terms of their defaults. I mean, I'm sure there's there may be some benefit. Just want to think about this for a second. Are they so they're not in payment default, but they may be in some reporting covenant type default or something like that? Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. You know what? Do you happen to have a current cap table for this company? Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind shooting that over, just so I have it. And then also, I forget to ask you, what other creditors does this company have? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's good. I mean, that obviously makes it less likely that there might be some sort of involuntary financing, and then also to the extent all they have is the factoring, which sounds like it's limited recourse against the receivables which are purchased, and the subordinated facility. So that's another good fact. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. If you don't mind shooting me the cap table, just maybe we can catch up tomorrow or over the weekend or whenever is convenient. Just maybe give this a little more thought and let you know if I have any other ideas. Yeah. No problem. No problem. How's everything? How's everything else going? How's the fundraising? Oh, great. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yep. Good, man. Great. Well, glad to hear that. All right, Andrew. I know you got another call coming up, so I'll let you go. But let me get back to you after I've got a little more time to think this through. Okay. Okay. Take care. Bye. Sorry, sir. Sorry, I didn't know that they blocked the street off. I didn't
okay.
know. Yeah, I apologize.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah,
I was on
okay.
the phone with a client, so I apologize. I couldn't pick up initially. This other call. Hi, Leo. Leo, can you hear me? Hi, Leo. Can you hear me? Hey, it's Jonathan Silverblatt. Hey, how are you? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's my. Yeah. Yeah, right. I got it. Sorry. I'm stuck in traffic in the FDR, but I'm a couple minutes away from the office. But yeah. So I looked at Roger's email, or I looked at the email from I guess Mason, which forwarded Roger's email, and so I just disagree with virtually everything he wrote there. I don't think he's interpreting the documents correctly. Um, uh, I'm happy to walk you through it, or I can try to set up a separate call with him. Um, yeah. Uh-huh. Um, um, uh-huh. Yep. Yeah. Well, there's no more. I mean, there's no more old debt, new debt. It's now it's all getting wrapped into one. I mean, you could certainly do that synthetically by. I mean, there's something called a unitranche loan, which is basically a single loan, but it's bifurcated into different tranches of debt, which are it basically deals with subordination by a waterfall of distribution that provides that the holders of Class A debt get the first dollars, and then the holders of Class B debt get the second dollars. So it's a contractual subordination that's done in the same loan agreement. So, like, that can certainly be done. Like, you're saying why would they ever agree to that? Is what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's like it is risky because, David. I mean, the receiver is going to do the best he can do, and the way the documents are set up, that the receiver can't successfully sell the business in effectively 7 months or 6 months plus the 30 days, then we just get it, right? We just take it, and then. And then if we're first at that point, then we get the whole asset value, and then if there's anything left over, we go to subordinated debt. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some risk there, I guess. I'm not sure. I can't really think of a real good commercial reason, why they would want to accept that risk, other than, if they thought that really the company was worth more than the MT&T and what the 2 point or the six and change, whatever that we're putting in, plus the old debt. So maybe there's an argument that if this thing went into bankruptcy, even though we have a covenant that says they can't file for bankruptcy, questionably whether that's enforceable, but we put it in there anyways. If there's a bankruptcy filing, I guess they're now both equity and debt, which maybe gives them more room to negotiate in a bankruptcy case. Yeah. I mean, we can certainly write it. I mean, you know, you're talking about an intercreditor agreement with these investors. You've got to negotiate that. That's the thing. You know, we're going to have to, you know, show it to them, and they'll probably have their own counsel comment on it. So it's really a question of timing. I'm just wondering whether there's a way we can do this where we can execute the forbearance agreement and then kind of leave some optionality on this point. So for example, you know, what about if we say in the forbearance agreement that, you know, essentially the lender, you know, will have the right to syndicate out a portion of its loan, and to the extent that it does, then its commitment will be accordingly reduced. And, you know, we have the right to work on that between now and the hearing, or maybe even after the hearing, right? Because why should they care, right? As long as they're getting the same amount of money, they shouldn't care. So, you know, at any time, right, at any time during the forbearance period, the lender shall have the right to syndicate, you know, out a portion of its loan, and then we can just we just have that optionality, and then we can negotiate whatever we want to negotiate, right? I think, yeah, and that you know, gives us, you know, just gives us some time. So. So that's a totally easy fix, and we can get into details of how the splits are going to work or not. I mean, I just would almost prefer not to get into that level of detail unless. Yeah. Let me ask a question. I mean, it seems like we're going back on some other terms, like we're getting one, you know, set of marching orders from David, and then we send it back to Roger, and he says no, that's not the deal. And I'm happy to keep on turning drafts, but at some point, I mean, how do we connect the dots in terms of, you know, yeah. Okay, you know, just so you know, I really tried to do that yesterday. He was in Paris, and we got disconnected 3 times during the call, and he kept on saying, "Call me back." After the third time of trying to call him back, I just sent him an email saying, "I'm sorry, I can't get through. Please give me a call in my office, you know, anytime. I'm ready to." And I never heard back from him. So that's why I just, at that point, I kind of just sent the drafts out, you know, in the state that they were. And it could have been that, you know, we theoretically could have made some more progress on the issues, but. You know, the other problem with him is that he doesn't really come back with a compromise. You know, he doesn't like say, you know, okay, I hear you, or, you know, we object, but how about this as a counter proposal? It's very binary. So I just find that it's not, you know, he's not he doesn't seem like he's willing to put his thinking hat on and think creatively in terms of how to get the deal across the finish line. But let me deal with him, and hopefully I can you know, make progress today. Okay. Yeah, that's probably makes sense actually to do that. I mean, you know, otherwise I think the documents are really very close, honestly, because we really did. I mean, assuming that the deal is that the 150, right? You know, it includes our fees and the upfront fees that gets paid at closing. Everything else gets paid at maturity. That's exactly the way I wrote the papers. I don't know what Roger's, you know, what Roger's talking about. I think he's misreading it probably. If that's not the deal, let me know what the deal is, and I can write it a different way, you know? Okay? Yeah. Yeah, just so you know, the comment that he raised in the exclusivity agreement, the reason why I wrote it the way I wrote it, and it's kind of a drafting point, but we literally say in our forbearance agreement that, you know, as a result, we basically get to purchase the assets if this deal doesn't work, right? And so the exclusivity agreement sort of says that, you know, they're not going to talk to anybody else other than us, you know, in connection with the potential purchase of the assets. And not changing the deal, I'm just simply, it's a drafting point to make the exclusivity provision work for what we said in the document. And then his point about, you know, he wanted to say that if receivership, the receiver never gets appointed, then the entire forbearance agreement goes away. And I think, I mean, I think I'm okay with that conceptually. The one thing that I thought we should preserve the right for is to get fees that we incurred in connection with the negotiation of this forbearance agreement. Right? Lenders typically say, okay, borrower, we'll hire lawyers to help you restructure your balance sheet, whatever, but you got to pay for it, right? So that's like, unless a client tells me otherwise, I'm not going to offer that up. I'm not going to say that it's a lender's expense, you know, to try to do a forbearance, and if the forbearance doesn't work, what? Then the lender pays for those fees? No, the borrower still pays for all the expenses. Again, a client can overrule me, but in the absence of direction, I'm going to go with the way that most lenders would want this to be drafted. So that's another. When you look at Roger's comments, you know, I just wanted to point that out to you because I really do think he's off base on that point, and I question whether he really has a lot of experience doing these types of deals. He may not. The woman Heidi, yeah. His associate or his counsel Heidi, I thought was a lot better, and kind of, you know, seemed to have a little bit more experience. But anyways, okay. Yeah, I'll email him right now, see if he's available for a call. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye.